What's going on, guys? Billy here, and this is the Insta360 OneX. It's a camera that's been out for about a year now, and I've had it in my bag for about 3 or 4 months, but what's a shame is that it really hasn't gotten all that much use, and it's not because it's a bad camera by any means, it's just because 360 photos and videos really haven't taken off. In my daily photo shooting and my video shooting, I never find myself wanting to take a photo or video from a camera that captures everything around it. You know, I think that right out of the gate, it'd be a good idea to discuss some of the difficulties I'm running into when shooting with the Insta360 OneX. And I don't want to turn this into a video where I bash this camera because, as I said in the beginning of this video, it's a great camera, and if you're in the market for a 360 camera, it's one of the best that you can buy even after being on the market for over a year, but most of these difficulties pertain to 360 cameras in general. So it doesn't matter if you've got a pocket 360 camera like this one, or if you've got a really expensive rig. It's more pertaining to shooting 360 photos and videos in general. The first issue is that I find myself trying to force a situation to use the camera when shooting a 360 image just isn't the right option. You have to find something that you're doing that really has something interesting going on everywhere, so it fills every single aspect of the frame, when most of the time just capturing the action going on in one direction is fine. There is a video that comes to mind that is, to this day, the best and probably the only 360 video that I've enjoyed, and that is the Blue Angels flying incredibly close to each other. Using the 360 camera to its advantage, you can look around at any of the planes in formation, or you can even look throughout the cockpit. Now, I'm not going to show any more of that video out of fear of getting a copyright strike, so if you want to watch it in its entirety, I'll leave a link down in the description. I highly recommend you go ahead and check that out. Now, back to my point of having to force situations to shoot 360 photos and videos. Even in that situation where you were filming the planes all around you, I feel like they could have gotten away with using a DJI Osmo Action or maybe even a GoPro because the field of view is so wide. Now, I understand USA Today, which is who uploaded that video, probably wanted to get like a unique angle, and they wanted to make a unique video that would get a lot of views because at the time 360 video was so new, but just using something traditional like a GoPro or like an action camera in general that has that wide field of view probably would have been easier for the viewer to view, because when I'm on my phone or when I'm on my computer and I'm trying to look all around, I feel like sometimes if I'm looking one way, I'm missing out on something cool that could be going on the other side of the frame. Where I feel that I got the most use out of this camera was on my boosted board because things were going on all around me, but even then, having to deal with the cumbersomeness of trying to frame up the shot blindly, whereas with a traditional camera, I would have known exactly what was in the frame, was a real pain. Also, when I'm on my boosted board, how often do you want to look at me riding the thing when looking in front of me at what I'm riding towards is infinitely cooler? Alright, so I don't think that I need to explain myself anymore. Shooting 360 images is a pain, having to edit those images is even more of a pain, and then after you've done all that work and you upload your images to a platform like YouTube or Facebook, which are two very 360 image friendly platforms, the chances of that end viewer owning a VR headset or even owning one of those cheap headsets where you can slide your phone in are very small, and that means that most of the people will view your 360 image by moving their phone around or by swiping with their finger, which at the end of the day is just no fun. Now, up until this point, I've pretty much only talked about why shooting 360 images is just not for me, but for the rest of this video, I want to focus on this, the Insta360 OneX. It definitely has a unique form factor and is a lot more compact than something like GoPro's 360 camera alternative, which I unfortunately don't have, but comparing it to something like the DJI Osmo Action here with a cage on it, you can get a feel for its size. Just as a quick walk around the device, on the front here we have two buttons, the power key and the shutter key, which sit just below a tiny OLED screen that shows the status of the device at a glance. Up on top here is one of the cameras that shoots half of the 360 image, which stitches together with the image taken from the camera on the other side. If you're someone that drops your gear frequently, I would be very, very careful with this because the lenses of the camera really protrude off of the body, making them very vulnerable. Around the device, we also have microphones to capture audio on board, and there are a pair of LEDs to notify the shooter the status of the camera at a quick glance. To note some more aspects of the build, there's a micro USB charging port on the side, which I really wish was USB-C, but I guess this thing gets a pass because it's over a year old. And on the opposite side is a battery door so you can pop in extra batteries. From my experience, you'll probably want to pick up some extra battery packs for this camera because the battery life is definitely its weakest point. I would say that it is below average at best. Even if I've got the camera sitting in my bag for a week without being used, it will drain from 100 to 0, which makes me feel like I can't rely on this camera. Now, I didn't get a chance to finish the walk around of this device, but on the bottom is a tripod mount and the SD card slot, which is positioned in a really odd spot and makes it tough to get in and out. As a whole, I'm a fan of the design. It makes it easy to hold on the bottom without getting in the way of the cameras, but remember, you're shooting 360 video and 360 photos, so if your hand is right there, right underneath the lenses, you're bound to see some of your fingers, so I would recommend getting a little handle to position your hand lower. So despite there being two small buttons on the front of the device, the best way to control the camera is through the app, which is well designed. It makes switching through modes easy, and you can of course see what the camera sees, but remember, you need to position the frame manually by swiping around on the screen. From here, you're left blind trying to guess what else is being shot around the rest of the 360 image, and usually I'll just put my phone away and hope that I'm getting the shot that I want. Let me also just mention that the Bluetooth connection made between the Insta360 OneX and whatever mobile device you're using is really poor. I would say that I can get about 30 feet out, 30 feet away from the camera before I totally lose connection. Also, if something comes in between me and the camera, I totally lose signal. I can't control the camera, and that makes it really frustrating, especially for somebody like me who usually likes to control the camera from afar. Now let's talk about the cameras. The specs are what everyone wants to know about, but they're kind of hard to understand because while you're looking here at specs that says this thing can shoot 5.7K video, remember there are two cameras shooting and stitching that video together, so you aren't directly looking at a 5.7K image. Instead, it's actually lower than 4K and depends on how much you zoom in or out in this 16:9 aspect ratio. So talking about the camera specs are great and all, but there's really no way to determine how good it is unless you just use it. So this is raw video and raw audio taken straight from the Insta360 OneX. I'm holding the camera about an arm's length away with a little handle I have underneath. The one thing you'll notice is how stable this footage is. There's no mechanical gimbal, there's no mechanical stabilization going on. All of this is done electronically, and you'll see in some video clips that I show you soon how good that stabilization is. You know, for being a 360 camera, the video that comes off of this thing looks really good. The image is sharp, it's very clear, the colors are vibrant. Also, it does a really good job at nailing the exposure, even though it's pulling in information pretty much from every single direction. But above all, the stabilization is so good in this camera. You've seen through some of these test videos that I've shown you me riding on my boosted board. You've also seen me going on a walk with my dog, a hike through the woods, and everything was perfectly stable. Again, there's no mechanical gimbal, there's no mechanical stabilization. All of it is done electronic, and that's impressive. Now here's the thing, here is my final conclusion of the Insta360 OneX. If you're somebody that is serious about shooting photos and videos, then this is probably not the camera for you. I actually tried to put this thing to work with real estate agents shooting virtual tours of homes, but not a single person bit because nobody wants to spend their time sifting through dozens of 360 images panning around a room when you could look at higher quality traditional images in a fraction of the time. Now, if you're somebody that likes to have fun and you like to experiment, then this is definitely the camera for you. I can't say that I didn't have any fun shooting 360 images because it was a cool experience at first, but the cumbersomeness has just really eaten away at me, and it's not something that I enjoy doing. Now, the thing is, in the future, I know there's going to be a time where I say, wow, I wish I had a 360 camera. So I'm going to continue to keep this inside of my backpack for that time. But how much use is going to be had of this camera? Probably not all that much. And that is why this is the best camera that I barely use. Anyway, guys, let me know down in the comment section what you think of the Insta360 OneX and maybe even 360 video and photo as a whole. You might think that I sound like a cynic because I don't want to see 360 imaging progress, or I don't want to see this brand new technology come out of the woodworks and potentially replace traditional photography, but That is not true at all. I'd love to see technology progress, and I'd love to see Insta360 prove me wrong. That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, I'll talk to you later. Peace.